Welcome everyone. Sorry for the delay. Here we are at Stock Lake out in West Dublin. We've got Kieran Ward here fishing for rainbow trout. So we are fly fishing here today.
Kieran's fishing a sinking line with what's the name of the lure again? It's called a golden humongous is the name of the fly that Kieran's using. He's already had a couple of fish on it, so the trout seem to be in tune with that today. But we missed the action on camera earlier. Apologies for that. We'll try our best to capture one on camera for you. And while Kieran's fishing, we're going to speak to him about some of the work that he does with the St James Street project and Dublin Angling Initiative, and also some of the work that he helps us with the outreach and education in IFI.
Okay, I think that's good. So Kieran, what are you doing there? Do you want to talk us through your fishing technique?
Well, like Andy said, I'm fishing with a sinking line and a lure. And the reason for that is it's been very cold up here today, had a lot of hailstones, and the fish are down deeper. It's warming up a bit now, so we might be able to get them on the surface later on, but they're not inclined to come up to the surface while it's cold. So that's why we're fishing down in the water. But it's about 10 foot deep here, and probably fishing about 5 or 6 feet down. As Andy said, we've had a few fish on this lure already this afternoon, so it's working well.
And we've got rainbow trout and brown trout in this lake. Right?
We've rainbow trout and brown trout in the lake. Rainbow trout are originally from America. All the fish we have here are bred in the IFI farm in Rossgray by Andrew Golden and his team. And they're great fighting fish and they're very voracious. But we also have the native Irish brown trout as well. So some guests like to get a brown trout from them from time to time. So we also find some days when the rainbows aren't on, that's the browns will take.
Could you just explain there at the end of the cast there, Kieran? You're lifting the rod up very high and doing the last bit of the cast very slowly, the last bit of the retrieve very slowly. Could you just explain why you're doing that?
Getting a lot of follows on this lure. So if you just pull it straight in and recast immediately, you miss a lot of fish. You'll see them swirl at your feet. So bring it up to here, and I can sometimes see a fish nosing around it and he's trying to make up his mind whether to take it or not. And the change in angle and bringing it upwards usually makes their mind up.
So it's getting tight to take from a shy fish.
So you can get them very close in.
And Kieran, by the looks of it, you've done this before. So do you want to tell us a bit about your fishing history? You've been fishing for a few years at this stage.
I learned to fish the boys' club in Inchicore. And Inchicore is a working class district in Dublin. But in the boys' club, there's a man called Dick Hunson who taught a number of us to fish, and he used to take us to Loch Melvin and Loch Mass fly fishing. So it's an unusual pastime for a guy from a working class area, but a lot of us stuck with it. And because of that, when I retired a few years ago, I decided I'd like to put something back into the sport. So I set up a plan with the Dublin Angling Initiative to teach transition year kids to fly fish. And of course, fitting in fly fishing in the middle of winter during the academic year was difficult. So we broadened it out to course fishing,
Yeah.
pike fishing session, and then a session on the beach down in our club. So they're now doing a number of different styles of fishing.
So you can show the kids different styles of fishing the whole year round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to say, hugely popular with the transition year kids. No, everybody acknowledges that it's difficult to get a kid to give up an Xbox to go fishing. You don't have a problem getting to give up double mats to go fishing. That's not it. Now,
Yeah.
but it's been hugely popular. Now taking kids out who, might go to Arco Beach. It's the first one they've been that far. They've seen, even to be down beside the sea.
Yeah.
They long go fishing.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant to give them that escape, isn't it?
Yeah, it's as I was told, the fishing is only one part of it. It's about giving them great childhood memories and giving them exposure to different aspects of life that they wouldn't normally get a chance to see.
Yeah.
And we've had almost universal liking for it. The school tell me that absenteeism is virtually non-existent on the days when we go fishing. So they have, and they've said they've seen great improvement in people's concentration, their calm levels, and all. They really see the advantages in the program. We do a 13-week program.
It's quite an extensive program then.
Yeah, we were lucky that we had a sponsor at the start who got us up and running, and then we've had great support from IFI in personnel and in grants to buy equipment. One of the difficulties we had with them was that the kids don't have wet weather gear. It's not cool to wear it to school, but putting by the side of the lake like Bucknow in February, and they see the benefits of it. And thanks to one of the grants that we got, we've now been able to kit them all out that they'll all be comfortable, because they're not going to enjoy themselves if they're wet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and fishing isn't all just being out in a nice sunny afternoon like this, is it? You have days where it's
funny now, but
cold and
hailstones on the ground this morning. Or it's early afternoon here.
that's right. And we start off with genuine course fishing with the kids.
Course fishing. And we show them how to use the fixed spool rod, reel, and we go up to Rammer at Virginia. And at that stage of the year, they're kind of guaranteed to catch fish. And of course, it's really important if you're bringing kids fishing, they have to catch a fish. You only learn to accept blanks when you get older. So we need to get them off to a flyer. So we do that. Then we go to Mucknow for a pike fishing day, and we go to Arklow then. We go to Arklow then in probably early March.
There's a few fish there. A few fish moving, all right.
Here now. And then we'll take them to a fishery like here, or we used to go to Courtlock when it was when it was up and running fully, or we'd go down to Roundwood, Bryan Alley and Roundwood, and they love it. In the end, they come around to their favourite form of fishing is fly fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, on most of them. Now you will get some who want to go back to rammer endlessly.
Yeah.
And you'll get those who like fishing from the beach. And of course, with young lads, they all like pike fishing. But I think the most.
There's a fish. And I don't know if you can see on camera there, but we can see how Kieran's playing the fish. He's not actually playing the fish on the reel. He's pulling the line through his hands and letting the rod do all the work.
The rod will act as a shock absorber. If the fish makes a sudden move.
That's a fine fish, Kieran.
Yeah, he's a fish of over 2, a rainbow of over 2.
And some expert netting on hand there by Rory.
So,
yeah.
So in handling the fish, you keep the fish out of the water as little as possible. Dampen your hands on the net and using your forceps to extract it and put them straight back in. If somebody wants a photograph of the fish, what we do is we put it back in the net and get them to line up the shot that they want. Like who the cameraman or who's going to get the camera out, everything done. So you're not trying to do this while the fish is lying on the bank. And then short rest. And in a coldish day like this, you won't have any problem with these going back. And practically 100% of the fish here are going to catch release.
Well, Kieran's just going to demonstrate now for a quick. It's just releasing the fish there. It's swum off nice and strong. Lovely. Now,
what fish was that, Kieran? That was a rainbow trout?
Of I'd say about 2.5 pounds.
Lovely. So there's some very important things you can do to help your fish be as healthy and strong as possible when playing a fish. We try and
Very important thing is we use knotless rubberized nets. The old nets that have knots in them and were sort of cord, they keep the slime off the fish. And that slime on the fish is what protects them from infections.
right, so your net choice is very important. Knotless nets, so you don't damage the fish. You play the fish without tiring it out. You don't want to exhaust the fish when they come back. That's particularly important then from now on, really, when it starts getting warmer in the summer months and water temperature is going up and water levels are going down. We really play our fish quickly and try and minimize their time out of the water as much as possible. So if you do need a photograph, try and get the fish out, unhooked, back in the water. You can keep the net, get the photo camera ready, take a photograph. The fish is out of the net for a very, very short amount of time.
can I ask you, Kieran, what's your favourite fly?
Well, favorite type of fishing is during the mayfly, which will be starting off in around now. And in particular in the evening they go out to lay their eggs in the evening, spent net fishing.
Right.
And I have Frankie McPhillips fly for spent. And that's my favourite type of fishing because the trout come up to feed on the females that are going back out to lay their eggs. And because they're not all the females will then die, because they don't have to chase them. Trout stay up on the surface.
They just sip them in.
Sipping them down.
Yeah.
And anticipate well, you're hoping to anticipate where they are and put the fly in front of them.
So it can be, I would imagine, a real exciting form of fishing, real visual form of fishing.
It's a fantastic way.
Yeah.
I'd even, like most of my fishing now these days, is probably salmon fishing. But still, bent net fishing is probably my favourite.
Right.
And so this lake here, Kieran, you're fishing lures, isn't that right?
Yeah.
But you fish different types of flies then for different types of fishing, if you will.
Yeah. Line sinks at about 3 inches per second. So this pond is probably somewhere between 8 and 10 feet deep. So I'll cast out and maybe wait anywhere. Check different depths. Start by waiting for 5 seconds for it to sink. If you don't get anything at that level, cast out and let it go down for 10 seconds, and so on till you contact fish. But if it warms up, flies start to come off the surface. Trout will come up to take them. That's can be a much more satisfying type of fishing because it's visual. You get to see the fish come up and take the fly. So there'll be dry fly fishing with one of the floating lines.
And so, in your opinion, then, Kieran, what's the best time to fly fish?
Ooh. May is always a great one.
Yeah.
Because flies will start. The water's warming up. There's a lot of flies that will be coming up. And basically April and May.
April and May would be.
You get olives, you get duck fly, you get obviously the mayfly, sedges will start to appear, and all those types of flies. So particularly here now, we'd get sedges in maybe June and July.
Yeah.
And maybe some buzzer fishing as well.
Do you find that is it better in the morning or in the evening, or is that largely just on the weather on the day?
Times are going to be dawn and dusk. I like fishing in the evenings. When I'm fishing for myself on my own club, I don't go out until about 8 o'clock in the evening. I'm fishing until after dark. You can hear it. You'll actually hear it takes even when it gets dark. That's the best times. The difficulty is you have to remember the fish is looking up against the sky. That's his background. Bright sunny sky, and you can see everything. You can see you can see the rod waving, you can see the line attached to the hook on the fly. So that's when it's most difficult. So you're hoping for a bit of darkness in the evening, or if you can discipline yourself with getting up very early in the morning.
Yeah. Sometimes hard to just to not switch the alarm clock off though.
The form of fishing now would become very popular. Canis fishing. And it's from 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, there's a fish.
Very hard take.
There's a fish on.
4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Proving to be very popular. Very technical sort of fishing. Do you want to talk him through this again?
Yeah. You can see there how Kieran's using the rod to play the fish. He's not bullying the fish at all. He's just letting the rod do the work. The tension in the rod is bringing the fish towards him naturally. He's keeping a tight line with his fingers rather than playing the fish on the reel. And he's coaxing the fish just towards the net gently. You see,
The rod is pulled down below 11 o'clock, 11 and a half line. It's not a tug of war. If you get into a tug of war, it's going to break the line.
yeah, exactly.
Pull it out of it.
Exactly as Kieran says there, if the fish does want to run and take line, you should always let the fish take, like it just did there. Always let the fish take line. The fish will let you know when they're ready to come in. And that's a particularly hard fighting fish now. It's given a really good account of itself. But generally speaking, if you have to lower the rod below the 11 o'clock position when you're playing a fish, then it's going to be taking line. So you need to allow a little bit of line for that fish to run. Otherwise, you've a chance of it breaking your leader. So we might just show the people at home how you'd hold a fish up for the camera for a quick photograph there, Kieran.
Yep.
Once you've unhooked him gently in the net. He's a bit lively.
You support him well, and he's a bit lively, so I put my hand on the outside of the fish. If he was a bit quieter now, I'd take it to the other side of the camera for a shot.
Yeah.
So that's it. Now he's getting back.
That's it. Pop him back in the water. Quick shot's all we need. And then we return him. Make sure that he swims off nice and strongly. To fight another day.
Give him a couple of seconds to recover. Okay.
What's the best type of fishing for a beginner to try, do you think, Kieran? Fly fishing seems quite complicated because of the casting.
Yeah, I would have always gone along with that kind of belief, but I've actually found now with the guests here, we can get someone casting reasonably competently after about 20 minutes or half an hour.
Yeah.
And if they're on the fly, it's the most satisfying way of getting a fish.
Yeah.
And I would say 80 to 90%, I mean closer to 90% of the fishing we do here is fly fishing. And over 80% of the people we have never fly fished before.
Right.
So we can get them working straight off.
And what would you say is the best length of rod for beginners to fly fishing?
I think the best rod to start off with is a 9-foot. Is a 9-foot rod for a 5-weight line.
A 5-weight, 9-foot.
We got these. They're a Gray's rod and settle, and it was only about €105 for the whole lot.
Right.
It's a fantastic rod.
Very good value for money.
I was wary because with only a 5-weight line, I thought it might struggle to land the fish in it.
Yeah.
Because one of the important things when you're returning fish is get the fish in as quickly as you can. Don't have him so exhausted that when he goes back, he really struggles.
Yeah.
But this actually subdue a good sized fish very quickly.
Right. And is that on the surface fly there, Kieran?
That's a surface fly, and that's with a floating line.
Right. Shall we see if we can catch fish on that one?
We can do this and see. Obviously they're down a bit, but we're going to give it a go.
Yeah, I was seeing 1 or 2 fish have been moving, so you never know. We might be in luck.
Do you want to come up to where the net is, Kieran? Up a little bit so we get a bit easier. And these are 9-foot rods, so these would be trout rods, really. If we were fishing for salmon, we'd get into a whole different ball game. You could use these rods for fishing for salmon.
That's it. No, I'm going to leave that there. That's a 10-foot rod. Sinking line, so we need a kind of extra heft in that. But in this, for a floating line, this 9-foot for a 5-weight line, to me, is ideal.
And the numbers you're talking about there, Kieran, so you're saying 7 and a 5, they're referring to the weight of the line, is it?
Yes. You must manage the weight of the line to the rod. This works with a 5-weight line. If I put a 7 or 8-weight line on this, it risks snapping the tip. And if you put a 3-weight line with it, it just won't bend the rod, so you won't be able to cast.
So, how can teenagers take up fishing then, Kieran? Would you suggest a local club or?
If there's a local club, always the best thing to do because you learn a lot more by watching other people and people just give you. But for fly fishing, there's lots of commercial fisheries now. I fished in places like, obviously there's some around Dublin, but I fished in commercial fisheries out in Mayo, in Waterford, Laois, out in the Curragh and Kildare, and if you go along to those, they're always very helpful because they want
And where would a young person get that sort of information from, Kieran?
Best source of information for that is on the IFI website.
Websites are good, and the tackle shops.
And
Tackle shops are great for sources of information.
The lorries are into Denmark Ride and South Side. If you're in Dublin, oh, great source of information. But your local tackle shop will always help out.
And just out of a matter of interest, what's your best fish on the fly?
Salmon of 18.5 pounds.
Did anyone else see it?
Yes. And the boy landed it for me, so you can reference him.
And just going back to them, so this is trout fishing. Obviously, if we talk about the other types of fly fishing, salmon fishing is also done on a fly rod, but it would be a slightly larger rod. Is that?
Salmon fishing is done usually with a rod, we say between 13 and 15 feet long.
And they're the double-handed
very
rods.
heavy lines, like 9 weight and 10 weight rods.
But then there's other types of fishing we can do with the fly rod. Then we can go pike fishing, isn't that right?
Yes, we do fly fishing for pike here in this fishery, and that's the flies are somewhat different. Remember, it's not a true fly. What you're doing is imitating a bait fish.
This here is the pike fly and pike rod. You can see it's much larger. It's a much bigger fly. Not really resembling anything that I would know as a fly, but that's what we use for pike fishing.
And the classic rod can be a rod for a 9-weight rod or a 10 weight. And you always have to have a steel trace attaching to the fly because the pike will bite straight through normal fishing line. But that's the style of fishing that's become very popular quite recently.
And then there's also fishing at sea with a fly rod.
Yeah, there's guys who fish for sea trout on the beach.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a real pleasure being out here with you this afternoon, Kieran, and we've seen you catch some lovely fish for camera. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, so I think we're going to have to wrap it up there. We didn't get one on the dry fly, but we might try it again at some time. Thanks very much for your time, and I hope everybody at home's enjoyed the viewing.
Thanks, Kieran. Thank you, Andy.